Welcome back to Rare Coin New Mix. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started with today's video. The 1975 United States 1-cent penny is often seen as a simple, everyday coin, the kind of currency most people wouldn't think twice about. It's a symbol of our nation's history, but beyond its modest appearance, it holds a deeper story, one filled with intrigue, surprises, and unexpected value. Today, we're diving into that story, exploring the 1975 penny in detail, from its historical background to its design, minting, and surprising worth in the modern collector's market. And by the end of this video, you'll find out just how much this seemingly ordinary penny is worth today. A value that might just surprise you. To begin, let's take a step back in time and consider the environment in which the 1975 penny was minted. By the mid-1970s, the U.S. economy was facing significant challenges. The country was in the midst of a decade marked by economic instability, with inflation rates on the rise and a deepening recession. The American public was dealing with rising costs, and coins like the penny, which was made primarily of copper and zinc, were crucial in daily transactions. But the penny of 1975 would go down in history for reasons that would take a few years to truly understand. In 1973, the U.S. Mint had shifted from the traditional bronze composition used in pennies for over a century to a new alloy, primarily copper-plated zinc, due to the increasing cost of copper. While this change was made to lower production costs, it also brought about complications. The new alloy wasn't as durable, and over time, it led to more wear and tear on the coins. However, it was in 1975 that a particular issue arose, one that would set the 1975 penny apart from the others. A mystery that would only unfold in later years. The design of the penny itself hadn't changed since 1959 when the Lincoln Memorial was added to the reverse side, replacing the wheat ears. That image, designed by Frank Gasparro, would remain on the back of the penny for decades to come, symbolizing the memorial to the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. On the obverse, we find a familiar portrait of Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, which has been the hallmark of the penny since its introduction in 1909. But when we start talking about the 1975 penny, things take an interesting turn. Though the design remained unchanged, there was a crucial event in that year that would alter the trajectory of this coin. During the minting process, it became apparent that the U.S. Mint had made an error, one that would go unnoticed at first, but would later become a significant point of interest for collectors. You see, the U.S. Mint had planned for the design of the 1975 penny to be the same as previous years, with no variations. However, due to a series of production issues, some pennies were minted with a slight modification, a modification that would make certain 1975 pennies far more valuable than their counterparts. While most of the pennies from this year were minted with the typical copper-plated zinc alloy, there were a few that had been struck using leftover copper blanks from the previous year, 1974. It's important to understand why this is such a big deal. The 1974 penny, which was also made with the copper-plated zinc composition, is a rare and highly sought-after coin for collectors. But finding a 1975 penny made from the same copper material, a coin that was technically supposed to be zinc-plated, is a rare occurrence, and one that most collectors wouldn't realize was even possible. The reason for this discrepancy was that the mint was phasing out its stock of copper blanks from the previous year, and some of these blanks made it into the presses for the 1975 coins. This accidental mix-up is what makes certain 1975 pennies so unique. These copper pennies, now known as 1975 copper pennies, are extremely rare, and collectors have come to covet them. Because most of the pennies were struck with the new zinc-based alloy, the copper variant stands out like a needle in a haystack. The rarity of these copper pennies is what has driven their value to remarkable heights. Now, let's talk about how these rare 1975 copper pennies are identified. The best way to distinguish them from their more common zinc counterparts is by looking at the weight of the coin. A typical zinc-plated 1975 penny weighs about 2.5 grams, while a copper penny from the same year weighs approximately 3.1 grams. This difference in weight is crucial in determining whether you've got a rare coin or just a regular one. If you happen to come across a 1975 penny that weighs more than the standard 2.5 grams, you may just have one of these rare copper pennies in your hands. As time went on, the value of these copper pennies began to rise. In the early 2000s, numismatists and collectors started to realize just how few of these copper pennies existed. Because they were struck on leftover copper blanks from 1974, they were a one-off issue that didn't quite fit into the standard production process. This rarity and oddity made them highly collectible. So, what does this all mean in terms of the value of a 1975 penny? Well, in recent years, the value of these rare copper pennies has skyrocketed. When they were first discovered, their worth was more of a curiosity, but as interest grew in the coin, its price began to reflect its rarity. In fact, in 2019, a particularly well-preserved 1975 copper penny was sold at auction for a staggering $115,000. Yes, you heard that right, $115,000. This is no longer just a simple penny. It's a rare piece of American history, a coin that tells the story of a time when the U.S. Mint made an unintentional error, but one that would ultimately result in a treasure for collectors. The price tag of $115,000 is an impressive figure, but it's also a reminder of just how valuable a mistake can be when it's wrapped in the right circumstances. For most people, the 1975 penny might still seem like a small, inconsequential coin, a mere fragment of pocket change. But for collectors, numismatists, and history enthusiasts, it's a piece of a larger story. A story about the intersection of history, economy, and human error. Finding a 1975 copper penny is a rare and fortunate occurrence, and owning one is like holding a piece of history in the palm of your hand. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or someone just beginning to explore the world of numismatics, knowing about the 1975 copper penny can help you recognize a rare opportunity when it arises. And who knows? You might just have one of these rare gems tucked away in a drawer somewhere, waiting to be discovered. So, next time you hold a penny in your hand, take a closer look. It might not be worth much, but it could be the key to a hidden treasure. The 1975 copper penny is a reminder that in the world of coin collecting, even the most seemingly ordinary coins can have extraordinary stories and unimaginable values. The year is 1977, a moment in history when the world was experiencing dramatic changes, from the technological boom, which saw the launch of the Apple II, to the cultural shifts, like the rise of disco and the beginning of Star Wars. But while these headlines dominated the media, something far smaller was quietly making its way into circulation: the humble 1977 1-cent penny. At first glance, it may seem like just another routine penny, something you'd casually find in your pocket change. But as many collectors know, this particular penny holds a fascinating story and incredible value. Let's take a step back and dive deep into the context that led to the creation of the 1977 penny. Beginning with the history of the U.S. Mint and the penny itself. You see, the penny was first minted in 1793, with a design that has gone through several iterations over the years. The most iconic and enduring of these designs is what we see today: the Lincoln cent, which was first introduced in 1909. This design, featuring Abraham Lincoln, was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner. The image of Lincoln on the penny has remained relatively unchanged for more than a century, with only subtle variations in its appearance. Fast forward to the 1970s. The United States was in a unique moment in its history. The country was emerging from the tumult of the Vietnam War and the Watergate scandal, but also beginning to embrace a new era of economic challenges and cultural shifts. In 1971, the U.S. Mint began producing the modern copper-plated zinc penny, moving away from the pure copper penny that had been in circulation for decades. The change in composition was driven by rising copper prices. However, the change didn't just affect the material of the penny. It also marked the beginning of a new phase in American coinage. Now, we find ourselves in 1977, where our story takes a turn. The year 1977 is particularly significant in the world of coin collecting because of a rare mistake made during the minting of the pennies. The 1977 penny is known to be one of the key years in which a major error in the production process led to a very rare variety of the coin that would become the object of many numismatists' dreams. But first, let's talk about the regular version of the 1977 penny, the one you'd find in circulation during that time. It's essentially similar to the pennies that had been minted throughout the 1970s. The penny weighs 2.5 grams, is 19 millimeters in diameter, and is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. The obverse, or the head side, still features Lincoln's portrait, which was designed by Brenner. On the reverse, we find the image of the Lincoln Memorial, a design that has been part of the penny since 1959. However, the real treasure comes when we examine the minting error associated with the 1977 penny. Minting errors are a fascinating aspect of coin collecting, and they can significantly impact the value of a coin. In the case of the 1977 penny, there was a particular mistake that made certain pennies stand out as highly coveted collectibles. Before we dive into this error, let's understand how pennies are made. The U.S. Mint uses a process known as striking, where a die presses the design onto the coin. Sometimes, an issue with the die or machinery can result in an imperfect strike. This can happen for several reasons: worn-out dies, misalignment, or even the coin not being fed correctly into the press. These imperfections can create what are called error coins. One of the most famous errors for the 1977 penny is the double die variety. In a double die error, the design on the coin appears to be slightly doubled, with a noticeable shift in the details. This can happen during the process of creating the die itself. When a die is first created, it's usually struck several times to ensure it's sharp and clear. If the die shifts slightly during the striking process, it can result in a design that's slightly off, creating the effect of doubling. For the 1977 penny, the double die error is visible on Lincoln's head, particularly around the lettering and the date. The double die penny is a rarity because these types of minting errors don't happen often. Collectors have a keen eye for these kinds of coins, and even a slight shift in the design can make a coin extraordinarily valuable. It's important to note that not all 1977 pennies have this error. In fact, only a small number were struck with this double die, making them incredibly rare and highly sought after. Now, let's talk about how this error was discovered. At first, no one really paid much attention to the details of the 1977 penny. It was just another coin in circulation. However, as coin collectors began to scrutinize their finds more closely, some started noticing the strange doubling effect. As word spread through the numismatic community, the hunt for the 1977 double die penny began. The error is most noticeable when you look closely at the year 1977 on the coin. You'll see that the numbers appear to be duplicated, a telltale sign of the double die. If you look at Lincoln's face, you'll notice a similar effect. His features might look slightly blurred or doubled, and this gives the coin a distinct appearance that stands out from the regular 1977 pennies. So why does this error hold so much appeal for collectors? The main reason is rarity. As I mentioned earlier, only a small number of 1977 pennies were struck with the double die error. The rest of the 1977 pennies in circulation were struck normally. Because the error was not intentional, it adds a layer of intrigue to the coin. It's a mistake, but one that adds tremendous value to the piece. Collectors and numismatists love errors because they're often hard to come by. They represent a snapshot of the mint's history, a moment when something went wrong and created something unique. It's a piece of history that stands out among millions of perfectly minted coins. And this is what makes the 1977 double die penny so valuable. The value of the 1977 double die penny has fluctuated over the years, as with most rare coins. But to give you a sense of the current market, a 1977 double die penny in good condition can sell for around $200 to $300, depending on its quality. However, if the penny is in mint condition or has been professionally graded, it can fetch an even higher price. Now, if you happen to own a 1977 penny that shows signs of the double die error, congratulations, you may have just found a valuable coin. But if you're wondering how to spot the error, the best way is to examine the coin under magnification. Look closely at the date and the word Liberty on the coin, and see if you notice any doubling or shadowing. If you see a clear doubling effect, then you've got yourself a rare find. However, the true jackpot comes when you have one of the best examples of the 1977 double die penny. In fact, certain coins in pristine condition or with particularly dramatic doubling have been sold for incredible amounts. For example, a 1977 double die penny in mint condition could easily fetch up to $99,000 at auction. Yes, you heard that right. While most 1977 double die pennies are worth a few $100s, the most valuable specimens have sold for nearly $100,000. This is the kind of treasure that turns a regular penny into a life-changing find for any collector. So, if you're going through your spare change, don't dismiss those 1977 pennies. You might just be holding on to something worth a small fortune. To wrap things up, the 1977 penny is far more than just another piece of pocket change. Whether it's the story behind the minting process, the fascinating error that led to its collector's appeal, or the potential value it can hold, this coin is a testament to how a small mistake at the US Mint can lead to something that captures the imagination of collectors and historians alike. So, if you ever find a 1977 penny lying around in your change jar or in your pocket, take a closer look. Could be worth a lot more than you think. And who knows, you might just be holding on to a coin worth nearly $100,000. In 1979, the world was in the midst of a transformation, full of significant cultural shifts and technological advancements. The disco era was in full swing, movies like Apocalypse Now and Star Wars. The Empire Strikes Back were making their mark, and the US economy was experiencing inflation. But while people were talking about music, movies, and the economy, the US Mint was quietly going about its work, producing billions of coins, one of which would go on to be an iconic piece of numismatic history. That coin, the 1979 1-cent penny. At first glance, the 1979 penny might seem like just another ordinary coin, but for the collectors and enthusiasts who closely follow the world of numismatics, this penny is anything but ordinary. It's one of those pieces that proves that in the world of coins, sometimes the smallest and seemingly least significant pieces can hold extraordinary value, provided you know what to look for. But before we get into why the 1979 penny is so sought after, let's take a step back and explore the context behind the design and minting process. The penny, after all, has a rich history that dates all the way back to 1793. Since its inception, the penny has undergone numerous changes in design, material, and composition, with the Lincoln cent being the most iconic and enduring. The first image of Abraham Lincoln appeared on the penny in 1909, designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner. The design, showing a profile of Lincoln, became synonymous with the coin, and aside from minor adjustments, it has been used on the obverse of the penny ever since. Now, by 1979, the penny had already seen quite a bit of change. One of the most important shifts had occurred a few years earlier, in 1973, when the US Mint moved from using 95% copper to using a copper-plated zinc composition. This change was primarily due to the rising costs of copper, which had made the original copper penny too expensive to continue producing. The 1979 penny, like its 1977 and 1978 counterparts, was minted using this copper-plated zinc alloy. It weighed 2.5 grams, was 19 millimeters in diameter, and continued to feature Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. However, the 1979 penny was notable for something beyond its material composition. In the world of numismatics, the 1979 penny is particularly famous for a minting error that was produced that year, one that would eventually make it a highly coveted coin among collectors. To understand why, let's take a closer look at how the US Mint produces its coins and what can go wrong in the process. Coin production at the US Mint involves striking coins with dies that contain the images and inscriptions of the coin's design. Each die is used to strike thousands or even millions of coins. Occasionally, something goes awry during the minting process, resulting in coins that are struck with defects. These errors, when they're discovered, often become the focal point of collectors' attention and can dramatically increase the value of a coin. In the case of the 1979 penny, the error that would make the coin famous was the wide AM error. What's a wide AM error, you ask? Well, let me explain. On the reverse side of the 1979 penny, there's the inscription E pluribus unum above the Lincoln Memorial, and below that, the word liberty. But the key feature to focus on is the AM in the word America on the reverse. During the minting of the 1979 penny, some of the dies that were used to strike the coins had a subtle error. The A and the M were spaced farther apart than they should have been, creating what's known as the wide AM variety. The error occurred because of the misalignment of the dies used to mint the coin. Normally, the A and M in America on the penny should be very close together. But in the case of the wide AM error, there's a noticeable gap between them. This slight variation in the die used to strike the penny created a very distinct visual difference that collectors quickly began to recognize. Now, why does this matter so much to collectors? The key to understanding the appeal of the 1979 wide AM penny is rarity. Minting errors are rare occurrences, and the wide AM error was only present on a small number of pennies produced in 1979. Most 1979 pennies, even those with slight imperfections, were struck with the correct die that had the AM letters close together. So the wide AM version stands out. Because these wide AM pennies were not intentional, they are incredibly rare, and anytime you have a rare item in the world of collectibles, its value tends to rise. So, how do you know if you have a 1979 wide AM penny? The best way to spot the error is by looking at the space between the A and the M in America on the reverse. If you can see a noticeable gap between these two letters, you're looking at one of the coveted wide AM error pennies. If the letters are close together, then you have the regular version of the penny. It's a subtle difference, but it's one that collectors know to look for. If you found one of these rare, wide AM pennies, congratulations. You might be holding on to something worth more than just its face value. While most 1979 pennies can be found for just 1 cent, the wide AM variety can command much higher prices. Depending on the coin's condition and whether it has been graded by a professional coin grading service, the value can vary widely. In general, a 1979 wide AM penny in decent condition can sell for several $100s, sometimes even more if it's in near mint or mint condition. But here's where it gets really exciting. Some of the finest examples of the 1979 wide AM penny have sold for incredible amounts at auction. In fact, a 1979 wide AM penny in gem quality can fetch up to $80,000 or more. That's right, a penny that was minted in 1979, a year that seems so ordinary at first glance, can be worth $80,000 to the right collector. To put this into perspective, a single penny worth just 1 cent could be turned into a small fortune with the right mix of rarity, error, and collector interest. It's a reminder of how fascinating the world of numismatics can be. The right coin, the right error, and the right collector can turn an everyday item into a prized treasure. The story of the 1979 wide AM penny is an excellent example of how, in the world of coins, the smallest details can make a world of difference. It shows that the history and value of a coin aren't always about how old it is or how well known its design is. Sometimes the right mistake at the right time, combined with a bit of luck and an eagle-eyed collector, can elevate a coin from obscurity to high value. So, next time you're sifting through your spare change, remember the 1979 penny. Don't dismiss it as just another piece of copper-plated zinc. Take a close look, check the spacing between the A and the M on the reverse, and you might just find yourself holding onto a coin worth far more than its face value. To conclude, the 1979 penny is more than just a coin. It's a piece of history that's tied to a specific time and place in the United States. And for the collectors who know what to look for, it's also an opportunity to find something rare, valuable, and potentially life-changing. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just a casual coin collector, the 1979 wide AM penny is proof that sometimes The smallest things can make the biggest impact, so keep an eye out for those 1979 pennies in your pocket change. Who knows? You might just be holding on to a coin worth $80,000.